Every day, we get things off the ground, keeping you connected and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. We're always looking at the bigger picture. We are ARA, reliable solutions for facilities and infrastructure.
Adam Goodes, welcome.
Into the hot seat.
That's right. Hope it's still warm. If somebody asked me to name the best AFL player I've ever seen, Adam Goodes would be close to the top of that list. Goodsy had that rare ability to turn a game of football on his own performance. If Goodsy was on the field, it didn't matter what the score was. You always felt like the Swans were a chance. If somebody then asked me to name the best blokes I've ever met, Adam Goodes will be up towards the top of that list as well. A few years ago, I launched my biography here at the SCG, and I invited Adam and a few old Swans teammates to come along. Just after he'd accepted my invitation, Adam started getting booed by AFL fans while he was playing for being proud of the person he was. So I thought if anybody had an excuse not to turn up, it'd be Adam. But not only did he show up, he walked around the room and talked to everybody with a grace and a dignity that I thought was phenomenal, given the ugly racial situation he was in. I've had to pinch myself quite a few times when I've rehearsed this line over the last couple of weeks, but I'd like to welcome to everyday greatness, Adam Goodes. Goodsy, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure, Barnaby, absolute pleasure.
Now, before I start, I believe you have something you want to say.
Mate, I do. I just want to have a big shout out to Ollie Sanderson, who played with the Kareen Cougars this year. First season playing Aussie rules football. I heard you're one of the best players, but the biggest thing that I like that people keep telling me, Ollie, is that you did the team thing. So, mate, keep that up.
Love your work, Ollie. So, when you were named Australian of the Year a few years ago, you had 180 requests for media appearances in your first month. Why are you here? Why did you say yes to coming on this show today?
I think there are obviously the budget for this show is massive, Barnaby, and you're paying for my mortgages. But no, so the truth of it all, mate, is there's some people that you meet in your life that inspire you. There's people that have to overcome a lot of adversity, and there's people that just have stuff thrown at them and they just soldier on, and you're one of those people, mate. And I think Michael and myself, and just like the brothers at the Swans, we'd do absolutely anything for one of our brothers. And even though you played with us for 1 year, we always look back at those players that played for our footy club, and if they overcome any adversity, we're always there to support them and pick them up, mate. So it's great to be on your show. I've heard a little bit about it, and I'm here to support you and your journey and what you're up to.
Did I mention I had a big head? So talk to me about the Bloods culture. Mickey touched on it, but how was that instigated? What was said? Who instigated the meeting?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us, we instigated leading teams to facilitate our culture session around who we wanted to be, what our perception was out in the AFL world, and then really drawing between what our perception of ourselves were, but what the market was saying about us. And the biggest thing for me was that we came up with a set of core values and behaviours that really underpinned our Bloods culture for the next 3 seasons, and to really focus on 3 key values, and that was to be hard, disciplined and relentless. And for me, having not grown up with my culture, having to be part of a culture that we just started with core values, with our leaders, I would see our leaders as being the elders of our group that had to educate our players, had to discipline our players. So for me, I felt part of a culture all of a sudden, and what it meant to be in a culture. And I really thrived in that. I really thrived in living up to the behaviours, really thrived in it so much that I actually wanted to be a leader for the very first time in my life.
So was the Bloods culture at the footy club, was it practically enforced, or was it more an unspoken law?
No, it definitely is enforced. I think like any culture, you have to have a language that you speak. You have to have ceremonies, and one of those ceremonies for me is, singing that song after a victory, or it might be the disciplinary acts that we have after players missing sessions during the week, where we'd go down the beach and do punishment sessions down there. But for me, the Bloods culture isn't something you just flick the switch and you turn on. You don't walk in the front doors of Drive Avenue, the Swans offices, and go, yep, I'm switching back on now. This was a 24/7 commitment that we made to each other.
So you're a proud Aboriginal man yourself these days, but you didn't have that firmer grasp on who you were and where you were from when you arrived at the club. What made you want to go and seek out your heritage?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Mum was taken away from her family when she was 5, which was really sad. So I don't have that connection to country, language, where my people are from. And I think once I moved to Sydney and the first reporter puts that microphone in front of my face and says, oh, you know, you're an Indigenous role model, how does that make you feel? And internally I'm thinking, well, I actually don't know what it means to be an Indigenous person. So I had to go on that journey, and that journey really started for me over here in Redfern at Eora TAFE, and I did a diploma in Aboriginal Studies, and that's where I really got an education, just the real foundations of, you know, what's happened since colonisation, all the bad stuff that's happened to Aboriginal people, and that just really gave me the foundation to you know, make other people aware of it, to start conversations about why aren't we talking about this? Why isn't this taught in our schools? And that really catapulted my journey on my Indigenous history and my identity.
So as an everyday bloke, Brownlow medals, Aboriginal role models aside, what do you think it is about sport that helps kids want to pursue their life's journey and find out who they are?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, Barnaby, was that footy was the great equaliser. Anytime I went onto the footy field, I was just like everybody else. And the way I played footy and the you know, being one of the better players actually helped break down barriers when I moved from small country town to small country town. And those barriers, you know, people liking me, people teasing me, people bullying me, because I was good at sport, it actually made it easier for me to assimilate and fit into those communities.
So speaking of the booing, how did it make you feel as a proud Aboriginal man that crowd started booing you while you were playing football?
Yeah, look, it was really tough, because usually when someone says something to you, it's, you know, in your face, or you can see who that person is. And when that booing was happening, it was happening in the crowd. I couldn't see who it was. Those people weren't making themselves known to me. And you know, at the very beginning of it, I thought, okay, well, I've been booed in the past, but usually that was just on games, single games, but it just sort of kept going and rolling on from game to game, and that started to really frustrate me, and I didn't understand it, and that's why, you know, I wanted to come out, and the club came out and said, look, I think this has racial undertones. I think that, you know, people are doing this week in and week out to really, you know, from my point of view, it felt like to really hurt me because of who I am as a person and what I stood up for and my values, and that was really sad. And it obviously got to that point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and I needed that week off, and that was the week when I knew in my mind that I wouldn't be playing the season after 2015.
So that ugly racial stuff that you got engulfed in at the end of your career, did that help to spark your reason for starting the Go Foundation? Oh,
not really, Barney. I think for us, we started the Go Foundation 2009, so it's going to be 10 years next year in September. What it did spark for me was that there's still a massive amount of work that we need to do, and I still want to be part of that work in breaking down those barriers, having those conversations, keep wanting to help empower our young Indigenous students at primary school, at high school, at university. So, you know, it's only ignited the fire of more than you know, trying to destroy it.
So when you came to the Swans, did you make a conscious effort to be a good bloke because you thought it might help you out later in life with the Go Foundation and things like that? Or did you just do what you thought was right and the wind blew you where it blew you?
Look, as you can probably remember, Barnaby, when I was at the Swans, I was a very quiet, shy young kid. You're lucky to get 2 words out of me, and how times have changed. But for me, I just wanted to represent, my family, my community well. And I had some fantastic role models like Michael, like Paul Kelly, Tony Lockett, Paul Roos, Mark Bay, Stuart Maxfield at our footy club that, I just had to watch them and follow in their footsteps. And, even playing with Roosy for a couple of seasons, just to watch those incredible champions of their game who are actually good blokes, who didn't let their egos overrun, the type of person that they are. And that's where I learnt how to be not only a good footballer, but a good person as well.
So Paul Roos is a player. Did you ever look at him as a player and think he's going to be a sensational coach one day?
Oh, definitely not. You play against people and you never think that, they're going to be a great coach. What I think Roosy did exceptionally well was he had a great mind for the game and how it was played, and he had a great way of bringing people together. And what he was able to do by starting the Bloods culture and empowering the player group was a completely different way of looking at a coaching and player relationship, where it was no longer a dictatorship where the coach, whatever the coach said, that was what was supposed to be done. This was the players having decisions and choices to be made on what's best for the footy club, and we really embraced that, and it really worked for us.
So you mentioned a few old mates from the Swans a second ago. What is it about playing football together that makes friendships endure and forge so strongly for so long?
I think winning premierships helps with that, Barnaby. I think belonging to something that's bigger than us as individuals, and I think for us that was the Bloods culture. So that made it a lot easier for us to come together, have those longer lasting relationships, and really focus on what was in front of us. And now that we are, most of us are all retired and moved on, we are still involved in each other's lives. We have this connection with each other that comes not only from being a Blood, but being a premiership player, and someone that's crossed our paths along the way.
So you yourself have done some pretty special things in your lifetime. Do you think you need to be a special human being and have accolades pouring out of your trophy cabinet, or can you be just a regular human being to be proud of yourself?
Look, I think the biggest thing about people wanting to be a professional athlete is, if you want to be a professional athlete, understand the journey and the work that you have to do to get there. If that's unrealistic, then use that exact same principle to get to wherever you want to get to, whether it's being an architect, whether it's being a doctor, whether you want to fly spaceships up into space, whatever it might be, the same process needs to be put in place. That's my goal. These are the small goals and steps I need to make to get there. And you just keep working on those smaller steps as you keep climbing. And for me, I was just incredibly lucky that I had great role models, I had great leaders, had some good luck physically with my body, and you know what? I made some good choices along the way, and one of those choices was to never to leave this place.
Very good idea. So do you still hang out and catch up with your old footy friends, your old premiership teammates?
Unfortunately, I do, mate. It's hard to get a word in with hanging around the likes of Mickey O, Brett Kerr, Craig Bolton, Reece Shaw, these guys that are still involved and still around in Sydney. And we've got a basketball team called the Vikings that plays on Monday nights. Myself, Mickey O, Brett Kirk, Shaw's moved to Melbourne, which is unfortunately lost him, but we've got Tim Schmidt in there. We've recruited Dean Cox now as a Swans coaching staff member. We've got a old reserve player, Kieran Emery, who you might know, who plays in our team as well. And we've also got Chris Goodrup, who's in our team, who used to work at the Swans here in the Swans Academy.
Adam Goodes, you're an incredible human being doing incredible things. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's over already?
It is over already,
Oh,
I'm
man,
afraid.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Well, you can sing a song if you like.
Oh, no songs here, nothing to show off.
Thank you, Goodsy, and thank you to Mickey O, and thank you for watching.
Every day, we get things off the ground, keeping you connected and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. We're always looking at the bigger picture, We are ARA, reliable solutions for facilities and infrastructure.